That sounded awesome, guys. Really, really beautiful. So I'm going to begin right where Barbara just left off. In a moment, everything can change. Right, Gloria? In a moment, everything can change. Do you know that? 4 people know this. It's what we teach. We teach that in any moment, at any second, as soon as you understand something, as soon as you tap into the truth, everything changes. Everything changes. I have a few everything changes moments in my life, and I want to mention them. But I want to ask you to think for yourselves, too. What happened in your life where everything just changed? Some time in your life where everything just changed. The first one that I can remember for me is when I was in the Cub Scouts. I was 26, and no, I was like 8 years old, I think, and they asked me, I was kind of a precocious little child. I had a lot of energy. Can you tell? I've mellowed. Can you imagine? I've mellowed, so imagine what that was. But they asked me to be in this pageant. And so they had me do a commercial. And you remember those Good and Plenty commercials? Choo Choo Charlie remember those commercials? So they put me in this bed, and I had to wake up in a bed, and the whole room was packed with people, and the cameras and lights were on me, and no cameras, lights. And I wake up, and I take the box, and I start singing, Choo Choo Charlie was his. I had never been on stage, I'd never sang, I never knew anything about theater. In that moment, I crawled into the bed, and the lights came on, I sat up, and everybody started applauding, and I was hooked. That was it. Really. From that moment on, I am an actor. Really. From that moment on, it has never left me. To this day, I still remember that moment when I sat there going, this is awesome. This works for me. People clapping for me. Awesome. I got it. I really got it. And everything did change from that moment forward. I suddenly had a purpose in life. I had something I wanted to do at 8. But the next moment that I thought of when I was going through this was the day I met Kevin. Seriously. I remember I was sitting on the floor in St. Louis, Missouri, just sitting on the floor talking to the choreographer of Candide, a show I was about to play Candide in. And I see her look up and say, hi, Kevin, to someone behind me. And I turned, and you know those movies when you see someone and you hear the sound score and then the lights all shift and all? That didn't happen. But actually, to tell you the truth, it did happen. I turned and looked up at this angelic boy man, he was 27, 26, I don't know, 29, something. And I looked up, and there was this being, this face, and this energy, and these eyes, and this smile, and he had a tennis racket, and these little white shorts, and a tank top. I remember the whole thing. And I remember just turning around and going, hi. And I was single at the time, shockingly, but I was single. And I remember turning to the choreographer. I said, is that my present from coming all the way to St. Louis? And she said, no, it's not. But we became instant friends. Something happened in that moment. And here we are 25 years later. I remember that. That moment changed the trajectory of my life. Certainly changed who I was. The moment that I knew I was going to be a father. I was in Dallas directing a play. And I was in the Dallas airport on my way home when I received a phone call from the doctor's office saying that we were pregnant. And I can feel it right now, sitting there in that airport. You're pregnant, and you're having, at the time, he said, you're having triplets. And I was like, but I remember my heart just like expanding, and it has never gone back because it expanded to include, at the time, 3 children that ended up being 2 by natural. Just it naturally ended up being 2. And I always say that's because somewhere along the line, that one just said, you 2 are way too much. And just added itself to them, which is why they're so big, personality-wise. So there was the moment, and then of course the moment when Will and Nora were born, and every parent in the room can talk about that, especially if you're in the room. I remember the first time I saw Will's face when he appeared, and it was just like, wow. And then he came out struggling. He came out like with the umbilical cord around his neck, and he was struggling, and you know, purple. He was like a blue baby, purple, and like fighting. And they're kind of still the same. Yeah, he came out just like, I'm here, and I'm gonna, right? Nora, this little white-crowned, beautiful little pink thing just popped out and went, hmm. And I kind of still like that. And I remember that moment, and everything changed. I was like, my world never went back. My world was changed. I remember the moment that I first heard Eric Butterworth speak at Unity of New York, and my life was changed forever. And then I remember the moment that I heard David Walker speak for the first time. And when he said, there is a power inside of you that you can use, and you are responsible to use it to create the life you want. And my life never, ever went back to what it was before that moment. He changed me profoundly. And then the moment that I saw my ministry, where I was sitting in Dr. Walker's church next to Kevin, and I'm watching David speak, Dr. David speak, and all of a sudden, just in this like kind of appearance, David turned into me, and I saw me doing it. And I had no interest in being a minister. I was an actor. And I turned to Kevin and I said, I think I want to be a minister. And he just went, Actually, what he really said, without missing a beat, he turned to me and he went, I will not be the minister's wife. Right? And here, on this very day that he introduces me, how perfect was that? I didn't even know I set that up for myself. Okay. Now, most recently, in a moment, everything can change. A moment that just happened in this last year. And it's the moment that I heard so clearly and I saw so profoundly those three magic words. I am God. I am God. I know you've been hearing it, and I know I've been saying it. But I've also been feeling it and knowing it in such a way I can never go back to that time I saw myself as a human being, purely a human being, and that there was a divinity in me. It's a big difference, folks. I am a human being having a spiritual experience. No, I'm not. I am God. I am a divine entity having this incredibly human divine experience. It's one thing. We teach oneness. That was a powerful moment in my life. In a moment, everything can change. And I will tell you this, we lost some people at this church because of that statement, I am God. They were very polite about it, but they said to me, I just can't hear this. It is challenging everything about what I believe. I need a God who can save me. I need a God outside of myself who I can pray to, someone that keeps me in line. I understand that. I do understand that, and I bless and say, go where you are most served. But I know what my message is to teach, because once I got it, I can't go back. I cannot veer from I am God. In the song it says, can you hear it calling? Can you feel it in your soul? Can you trust this longing and take control and then fly? I can hear it calling. And I hear it take control of my life. And it is the very thing that allows me to fly, to literally fly in everything I want to do. I do nothing unless I know who I am doing it. Because if I don't know who I am doing it, I have fear, doubt, uncertainty. There are aspects to doing things in life when I don't know I'm God that are scary. As God, not so scary. When I trust that life is unfolding perfectly because I trust that I am God, then how scared can I be? I can't be. So, this month, letting it fly. The it in letting it fly is who you are. Who you are. Letting it fly. So when I say I'm letting it fly, I'm letting God fly. I'm letting God fly the plane. I don't need to fly it. I am letting God do everything through me because that's who and what I am. And I got to tell you, this session, bless you, Josh, on Thursday night, watching the movie Three Magic Words was so profound for me. I'd watched it 4 times already, but I watched it with the room of us, and I'm listening as people are going, oh, wow. And it was really cool. And those of you who were here, you know that. It was just... And again, when it got to what the 3 magic words were, my eyes just started going. It was like a water show. And I was just sobbing because it's so profoundly, when you hear the truth, something in your body responds. There's something in you that just responds. And my greatest goal of life is that I can speak this truth in a way that you hear it the way I heard Dr. Walker say it, the way I heard Eric Butterworth say it, the way I heard Michael Perlin say it in his movie, 3 Magic Words. That's what my goal is. And I expect to spend the rest of my life speaking these 3 words, I am God, in multitudinous ways. So, the man who wrote the book, 3 Magic Words, his name was Yule Anderson. But here's what's interesting. He wrote it in 1954, which I find interesting because that's the year I was born. I'm sure he wrote it knowing I was coming. So in 1954, he wrote a book called 3 Magic Words, and he dared to say, I am God, in 1954. In 1972, they changed the title of the book to get it away from the I am God story and into the key to power and personal peace. So from 3 Magic Words, a provocative I am God, to the key to power and personal peace. And I have to ask myself, there's a line in the song that says, why is it that we hide away from certain things? Can you feel it calling? Can you feel it calling? You know, why do we hide away this thing that we know? Why do we hide away from this thing we know? Why do we hide from this understanding of who we are? Because here's what's really interesting. So Yule Anderson writes 3 Magic Words, I am God, in 1954. But you know, way back in the Psalms, Psalm 46, verse 10, it's this: be still and know that I am God. Now, just to be clear, Hebrew grammar puts the emphasis on the second imperative in every sentence. The second imperative is the important message in Hebrew grammar. Be still means to surrender. Surrender. The second imperative is know. Surrender to the knowing, I am God. So Yule Anderson said it in 1954, but it was said long before that. And Jesus walked this earth to teach that exact same message. Be still, surrender to the knowing, and know that I am God. The title of my talk today is How High is the Moon? The answer to that question is 238,900 miles. That's how far away the moon is. Now, it seems like it's too far to touch, doesn't it? Is the moon too far to touch? How many of you have touched the moon? Johnny, really? You touched the moon? Did you go to the moon and touch it? You did, okay. I'm not going to argue. Good for you. Okay, you were on that flight, huh? Because you don't need to fly anywhere to touch it, right? So you've touched it in your mind, correct?
I've touched it in my spirit, in my mind, and physically.
Okay, good. Because what we do in our mind is physical as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay, good. So the rest of us have not touched the moon, unless you've done it in your mind. However, and it seems far away, doesn't it? What do you think? 238,900 miles? Is that far? Yes. Okay, so that seems, what? 1 nanosecond. So it seems far to us. So what I ask you today is, how high is the moon? There's your answer, 238,900 miles. And it really seems impossible for me to touch it. It was a full moon. It's a full moon today. And the full moon means that when the full moon comes along, it's there to show you the fullness of the sun mirrored by the moon, which is why it's so bright. So on a full moon day, such as today, we're actually being told by the universe, by the galaxy, that the fullness of life is present, even in the darkness, even in the nighttime. That's what the full moon means. So, even though it seems hard to touch that moon, if I recognize that I am one with the moon, I'm one with all of it, then as Johnny said, it's really not the perspective of touching it. I don't even have to get into this 238,900 miles thing. I am one with it. I am one with all of the universe. So here's why I'm bringing this up. You have a mind that you're using, and I think every single one of us has placed certain things as far away as the moon. That we have put a ceiling on the capacity we have to use our minds. And we have put things that far away. Sometimes it's success. We've put success as far away as the moon is. We have put money, prosperity, as far away as the moon is. For some, we've put happiness as far away as the moon is. And we have created a world where we live in this kind of dualistic understanding that all of these things are somehow things we have to get, not things we already are, that we already have. And the answer to that dilemma, the answer to how high is the ceiling of your mind, is in the three magic words: I am God. Because to the degree that we really digest this and know this, we can no longer think success is far away. We can no longer think that prosperity is somehow out there. We can no longer think that love and relationships and health and vibrant energy is somewhere out there. It has to be right here. And so today, I'm asking you to think about that first line of this song. In a moment, everything can change. What's it going to take for you to change your mind so profoundly? Your first thought is your God thought, your highest level of God consciousness. Is it going to take an exercise for you to stop talking all the junk of your life? How many of you still, you don't have to raise your hands, but how many of you are still talking junk? How many of you are still talking about your challenges as though they're real? How many of you are still talking about money as though it really is a problem in your life? How many of you are still talking about him or her that done you wrong? How many of you are still involving yourselves in that part of life that's just going to expand whatever you're talking about? We only do that because we are using it as a habitual thing that keeps us away from knowing I am God. Because I can just come over here and keep saying, she did this to me, and this happened, and that happened, and oh my God, can you believe it? Because in that moment, I'm certainly not saying I am God. When we have two things to choose, I can choose the truth of who I am, or I can choose the relative world and all the stuff that's happening in it. Now, the truth is, you can choose to know that you are God and actually see all of this, but from over here. I see it all from my God consciousness. And I keep my conversation at such a high level. I don't let people talk to me about negative things. I certainly will let people tell me what their challenges are, just enough so that I can help them come back to the truth. That's what a practitioner does. That's our job as practitioners, to hear what someone's challenged with and then let them know they are God and that they're bigger than any challenge. Whatever you wrote out on those cards today, just know this: you wrote them out because you got them out. And you are bigger than anything you wrote down today. And Jamie will certainly know that when he treats on it. So Ewell Anderson wrote this: there is a cause, there is a reason, there is a power greater than you are, which you are a part of, which you can use to make your life good and great and vigorous and full of abundance. Now here's where we get kind of caught up. There is a power greater than you are. As soon as I hear there's a power greater than I am, that doesn't work for me. It just doesn't work for me. Because I don't think the power is greater than I am. I think that I am the greatness of power, and I use it in my individual fashion. Am I all of the power? Only in those moments when I actually tap into and allow myself to be absorbed by it all. But when I'm using it, I am that power. And I don't have to live from a perspective of, there is a power greater than me. No, there's a power that is me. That power is me. And do you see where we're going with this teaching? We're on this journey, everybody. We're on this journey of knowing ourselves, getting back to the truth. And we had to go to, there's God out there now that, oh, I'm one with God. I'm a wave of the ocean. I'm a piece of God. There's a power greater than myself. And we're going to finally get someday to, I am God in its most profound, spiritually full way of speaking and knowing I am God. He also said, I must never forget that the universal mind, this is Ernest Holmes. I must never forget that the universal mind, being infinite intelligence, knows how to bring any desired good I may entertain. Many of you have been sitting here for 10 years. And we've been talking for 10 years, and I know this conversation has evolved. That's all we do. This is an evolving conversation. Yet Ernest Holmes wrote this a long time ago. I must never forget that the universal mind, being infinite intelligence, knows how to bring about my desired good, whatever desired good I may entertain. Whatever desired good you entertain, the infinite universal mind is capable of bringing to you, because it's what you are. He also said, Ernest Holmes, I must never forget that the law of mind perfectly reflects my ideas, whether I call these ideas good, bad, or indifferent, which is why you can have the conversation over here and you're just creating this. Because it doesn't care, in one sense. It just gives you back what you're thinking into it. You can change your life this morning by stepping that much deeper into this teaching and getting it at a more profound level. And this is my quote. I must never forget that I am is a call to action. I am is a call to action. It's not just a call to sit back and go, thank God I am God. What a lovely day. I am God. No, it's I am God takes me into action. I'm God. What do you need? I'm God. I can do that. Which is what, from what musical? Okay, too bad. I can do that is from a chorus line. Anyway, I am is a call to action. How many times have you been called to action and not thought you had what it took to act? Not thought you had what it took to do it? It's because you didn't have the I am in place. Ewell Anderson, this is one of my favorite quotes of his. He says, the secret of success is to create rather than compete. Think about that for a second. The secret of success is to create rather than to compete. All you actors out there, all you songwriters out there, singers, we get so caught up in, am I as good as so-and-so? Can I compete to get this part? Can I get this in my career? This person did, I need to do it that way. No, you don't. That's how they did it for their success. If you just create, and I love that he said this, the secret of life is to just create. Just write what you write, Josh, right? Just write it. It doesn't matter what Gary's writing or what anybody else is writing. Gary's going to write his way, you're going to write your way, I'm going to write my way. We're all going to do it our own way. Frank Sinatra did it his way, right? And he called it my way. And how many Frank Sinatra impersonators have come along since, trying to do it his way? No one's succeeded at it, really, because we already had Frank Sinatra. So who are you? The I am is this amazing truth in multiplicity, meaning that it splits itself into infinite possibilities. What a great quote. The secret of success is to create rather than to compete. How high is the moon? The truth about that, even though I gave you the correct mileage, the moon is only as high and as far as you put it. So I can come back to Johnny, who was the only one really that raised his hand and said he's already touched the moon. It's not far away at all. Every one of us needs to get to that answer, but to that answer by believing it, not just through metaphysical rhetoric, but really by believing it. You all have big dreams, I know you do. I've talked to most of you. You all have really big dreams, and you have aspirations, and you have such creativity. This church is so filled with creativity. Kevin Gertis sent me his CDs, his CD of his songs, and I was shocked. I was like, why are you hiding this under a bushel? Do you feel like it? Here he is, stand up, they'll all see who you are. No, kidding. Where do you hear? He has a song that we're gonna do like in a Glee setting where we all dance too. We can no longer afford to hide our talents. If you have something to say, something to create, something to let out, something to let fly, just do it. Create it. Don't get caught up in the how. Don't get caught up in the, well, what's going to happen with it? And if you're one of those people that thinks to yourself, I'm not creating this unless I know exactly how it's going to go, oh my God, you are just going to have a life that never, never gives you the fulfillment you ask for. You have to be willing, as Reverend Jamie said, to just jump out of the plane and fly. And then trust that you're never going to hit the ground splatting. You won't. And here's the thing. Most of us, when we jump out of the plane, I love, when he said that, my mind just went, oh my God, I thought about it. If I jumped out of a plane without a parachute, it really would be, depending on how high up I was and how high I was, it would be such a fabulous few minutes. But you know what? It probably wouldn't be, because I wouldn't experience it, because I would be too involved in the splat. And I think that's what we do with our lives sometimes. We're so involved with how is it going to end up, we're so sure of how this may turn out, that we don't even experience the ride, the flight, the creativity. I've been writing again, and I've been loving it. Rewriting and writing songs, and I've just been writing again. And I'm no longer writing to try to write a big hit musical. I'm writing to just speak, to let it out. And what's been coming out is just, for me, it's beautiful. So, can you change in any given moment? Yes, you can. The minute you understand the I am. In the moment, everything can change. The moment, this moment, right here, right now, this moment is the moment for you to understand I am God in a much more personal way. Everyone take a deep breath. I'm going to ask you a question. If I am God, I can ... I want you to answer that for yourself. If I am God, I can ... Whatever that is, there's your call to action. Whatever has come up, if I am God, I can ... There's your call to action. In a moment, everything can change, because that moment is filled with this wonderful truth: I am God. Namaste.